Hi there people, welcome to this video. Today I'll be talking about the monster of a support that is the Palace Athene. This thing is an absolute monster in terms of damage and has a very nice features. So let's take a look at its stats and weapons. As for stats, it's quite a monster. It has a lot of HP, pretty good defense, decent melee resistance for a support. They usually don't get much, so it's pretty good. And mostly ranged strength, which is what we want. The main weapon is what we really like to use here. It deals a lot of damage. The beam saber is okay. These small missiles are very, very good, and I'll talk about it later. The beam gun exists. The shoulder beam cannon is very good, and I want you to keep an eye on that 8-second overheat. The large missiles are situational, but very good in the right situations. They just have a 30-second reload, which is not good. And the grenade, which is the only instant stun weapon you have. Here are the shortcuts I use, so in case you want a template or something. So let's jump into the training to see what we can do with it. Here I put it at 700 cost. I'm using the 550 Palace Athene. This is so the enemy can have a bit more resistances and we can see the damage a bit more realistic, so to speak. You can see here the main beam rifle deals support, so fires 4 shots. Is the level 1 gun. And it deals, if you charge it, 1,000 damage stagger, per shot. And we're talking the 550 normal stagger. Then for the shoulder beam cannons, they are very, very good because they cause a huge amount of build-up stagger. I don't remember well, I think it's 35% per tick. Now, if you try to hit something that is very slim, it's not gonna work well. But most targets are not that slim, so it's a very good cannon. The damage may seem low if you're just looking at the stats, because it says 310, I believe, but it deals 310 damage every tick. It's 5 ticks for both cannons, so a theoretical total of 3,100 damage. The missiles, as you can see, the big ones, they can be tough to hit at some times. You don't need to use the old technique of jumping to hit all the missiles anymore, thank God, but I don't recommend kneeling. Usually the damage you'll get from kneeling is smaller than just hitting 2 extra missiles. Though again, it's pretty hard to hit all of the missiles. Most of the time it's best against enemies that are not moving and enemies that have wasted all their boost, so they melee and they get hit with all the missiles because they can't move for a brief moment. The grenade is very interesting because you can use it to extend the time the enemy is staggered, but it's not a true combo, I believe. It takes quite a bit for the grenade to be ready to shoot. The missiles work best if you aim at the center of the enemy rather than on the legs. But it's still pretty usable. You just need to get used to it. The beam gun is the last thing I'm going to talk about, and just another thing I forgot. The missiles are not very good if you use them at close range because they need to go outward and then they come back. So try to use it at a distance. The beam gun is interesting in theory because you can stagger with just 5 shots. So if you're going against opponents with maneuver armor, it's a usable, but like the shoulder beam cannons have an 8-second cooldown and they deal a lot of stagger, so it's almost a joke. It's incredible though how quick you can charge you can stop people using these shoulder beam cannons. I'm not joking, they're amazing. If you really like the FAZZ, I would recommend trying out the Palace Athene. It has a very similar role and sort of similar loadout, but more consistent damage. So here we are at the match, and this is one of those weird matches where a few enemies are not appearing for you. In this case, all I can see is 2 allies and 3 enemies. So this is an interesting match. It's not a greatest match, but it's very interesting just to show the potential of the suit and the damage it can cause. As usual, in the beginning I deal some damage. You can see against the generals. The beam rifle deals a lot of damage. I like to charge it in the beginning because it's a lot of damage in a very short window, so that's what I like to do. The beam rifle deals a lot of damage. You can get easily like 1,000 damage per shot, and you have 4 shots, so that's like 4k damage. And each shot costs 12% heat. So if you were surprised by the FAZZ with its amazing damage at a 60% heat, this thing can actually do better, which is crazy. The main combo I like to use is the main beam rifle stagger, and then follow up with the shoulder beam cannons. It's a very good combo. I like to use it. Then I can usually follow up with a few missiles. After those 2 hits that deal quite a bit of damage, the enemies usually run away, so that's why I use the missiles instead of the main beam gun. You can shoot, I believe, if you're pacing yourself, you can shoot up to 3 bursts with a single energy gauge, with the primary weapon. So if you need to deal a lot of damage right now, that's probably your best bet. It doesn't deal much stagger though, so keep that in mind. I was talking about the FAZZ in this suit, and this is a very interesting comparison. Because if you look at the FAZZ, it has a lot of damage on the beam rifle, and the missiles deal more damage than my missiles, the small ones. But the thing is, the FAZZ missiles are awful to use and to hit the enemies consistently. You can do it, but it's mostly against enemies that have stopped. So it's in a very dynamic game, which is usually the case. It's not really a feasible option. The Palace Athene shield missiles, on the other hand, have a straight trajectory, and they do get ASL, which is amazing for those who are used to using or have ever used the Super Gundam. Know that ASL is great for missiles, they help a lot. So this suit is actually very impressive. I used it quite a bit. One of the reasons you see me kneel in some situations is because I have the Palace Athene has the, what's the name of this skill? It's stabilizers. I don't remember. Basically, when you kneel, you get stagger resistance, and the Palace Athene has level 2 damage control, I believe. So it can become very difficult to stagger this thing. So basically what I do is I find a good place to kneel and support my allies. And most of the weapons you can shoot while kneeling, and they have good range. I think both of the beam rifles and both the beam rifle and the shoulder cannons have 500-meter range, which is okay for support. It's pretty good. The missiles, the big ones, have 600 meters of range, which means they're very, very good to hit snipers. And I have a great match at 700 cost, where I use it against the Z Gundams. The Flying Dorito is a very big unit, so it's quite easy to use. Units that have a weapon that they need to stop to fire, or that fires continuous beams, are also a good target. The thing with the big missiles is they're mostly for decoration and making you look like a peacock. But because it's very hard to use them effectively. But at the same time, they deal a lot of damage. So if you like the FAZZ, because you can use the meme beam and deal a lot of damage to people, this is just a quicker and more convenient meme beam with a 30-second cooldown. So it's very interesting. If you compare it with the prototype Stark Jigen, I think it's a very personal choice whether these missiles are better or the prototype Stark Jigens is better. Because this one fires all the missiles at the same time. The other one fires one at a time, so you have to stand still for a longer period of time and people can interrupt you. This one deals more damage overall, but it's also very hard to hit all the missiles. And the prototype Stark Jigen missiles are guided, so that's another big plus. But this suit is quite surprising. You can deal a lot of damage with it, and if your allies help you, you can be a menace. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys another time. I'll also be commenting on some other matches I had with the Palace Athene. Matches that went a bit better or a bit more interesting compared to this one. But I hope you like it. So stay tuned. Bye bye.